This is interesting to go down this path. I actually didn't even expect that we might talk so much about the, like, how this actually gets integrated into the business world. But I think it is important even as a foundational piece, because our kids, you know, like, I didn't grow up learning this. Like I said, 7 years ago was the first time somebody actually introduced the idea of like what a word actually means, both the definition of it in the dictionary and then what it can mean for you and how it can be different for somebody else, but still the same word. How critically important is that, do you think, in our education system going forward here, of not only just values, because it's just kind of one modality on all of this, but even, I know you mentioned like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and how that has been integrated into the school systems and whatnot. And we had such a fascinating conversation around that. You want to just pick up on that? I'm not sure exactly what the question is, aside from like, shouldn't we be teaching our damn kids this stuff in school?
And that's the thing, is I think a lot of it has come accidentally, right? And it comes from either like an incredible teacher that we had, maybe it's one great school. And yeah, the Stephen Covey stuff, they've got Stephen Covey programs that go in, I think it's called The Leader in Me. And there's certain schools that you have to get licensed. It's actually pretty strict. The teachers have to go through through additional courses to become a Leader in Me certified school. And then they teach the kids the 7 habits. And from what I've heard, it's worked really well. And it's a very strict program. And it's starting to get to be a very expensive program that they're looking elsewhere for different SEL, social emotional learning concepts and programs that people get to implement. But the tricky part, and I think that's what Leader in Me does, and that's what we try to do too, is you have so many different people who are raising kids. Yeah, they're my kids, but they also belong to a hockey club. They also go to school and spend so much time there. They go to their friends' houses. They see their friends' parents. They talk. There's so many different people who have input into my daughter's lives.
Well, and then you throw in social too, right?
Yeah.
And now you've got this just never-ending stream of influence that's coming at these kids these days.
Yeah, and they be able to digest it. And but this all builds up their character. This is what they're finding the lessons and the experiences from all this that creates their values. So at a very bare minimum, because parents and schools are the places where typically most kids are going to spend most of their time. And if we can get the parents and schools working off the same playbook to say, hey, this is the way that we want people to treat each other. At a minimum, it's like, all right, well, let's talk about respect. And if we're talking about it in the same way as we are in this classroom and at home, then that magnifies the message even more to the kids to say, oh no, this is really important. We need to be able to do that. So then you've got teachers who, God bless their souls. If angels came to earth, they came back in the form of teachers, because even before the pandemic, some of the most wonderful people in the world. And now that's something that really gets under my skin, is the way that teachers have been treated and the way that they've been spoken about and accused of, and all these things. And I think that was, at least from my side, as soon as my kids were home for several months. In Belgium, we only had them home for 3 months because they're all under the age of 12. We love teachers even more. Like, please educate my children. Please take them back. I'm not ready to learn new math right now.
No kidding.
But if we're able to be able to be on the same page, but even that is hard, because teachers all have these different backgrounds and different personalities, and they're doing their best, man. So from an educational standpoint, if we're able to get into schools, and at least from my side, we're doing this. This isn't a promotion. We're just doing it free. We're just saying, hey, any teacher who wants to kind of go through this Brace Smart Kind stuff, it's not a curriculum. It's just a way to wrap your brain about how we're raising kids. And if this helps you, great, fantastic. Please take it. And then they get the parents into that conversation too. And it's like, all right, well, let's define how we want our kids to show up, have courage. Let's talk about that, about how we want our kids to think. And then there's some schools who are like sending home notes to be like, all right, your kid was brave, smart, or kind in this way in the class. So we can recognize it. We can help our kids understand their superpowers. And
the acknowledgement.
There's plenty of people who are out there that are doing those types of things, but yeah, to be able to notice and acknowledge, and then what gets acknowledged and noticed gets repeated by kids, whether that's good or bad, and they want attention and connection. If the only way they get their attention from people is through acting like a jerk, they're going to continue to get it, because getting that attention is better than irrelevance.
Yeah, and I know last time we chatted too, we were just talking about the concern, and I think it's wrapped in one kind of statement, which is teaching kids how to think, not what to think. And you see legislation in the States even too. I know somebody in my network who I have a lot of respect for and what she does for work. She does a lot of leadership training and that type of thing too. But she shared something about I think it was in Indiana, they were trying to pass some legislation that was requiring the teachers to follow a certain curriculum and there were certain things that you couldn't say in a classroom anymore. Like they were starting to mandate that. And it was around race and gender identity and that type of thing mostly, right?
Yeah.
And it was really, at surface level, you might be like, oh yeah, whatever. And then you read into it and you're actually, you think about the future projection of that and you're like, wait a second, this is a big deal. Like we're taking away the ability for our teachers, which I 100% agree with you. Like my sister, I was telling you, is a principal with 25 years experience and an MBA and spent a lot of time and a lot of money to get there. Like I would happily have my kids raised by my sister, but the system, if the system's going to say you can only do this and you can't do that, and she's not teaching them how to think critically, like you're talking about, she could be the most amazing teacher in the world. Now she's got handcuffs on her to actually what it means to teach a kid in today's world about how to think. That scares the shit out of me, man. And I'm not the only person that thinks that way, because every time I bring it up, another dad goes, oh, dude, I'm thinking this. Tell me what you figure out. Like, are you taking your kids out of school? Like, oh, how are you going to educate them then? Like, is it a homeschool situation? Is there a community thing? Is there an online court? Like, this is huge, man. This is one of the reasons why I was really excited to talk to you, and just about what you got going on even too, and the initiatives. And I think you've even alluded to it, is that like, oh, it's evolving, you know, like we do corporate stuff in corporate world, and we have this kids kind of stuff. And then we realize that the parents ultimately are the influencers in the decision making a lot of times with kids, right? Because they can't make their own decisions at a young age.
Right.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that clip and you want to watch the full unedited episode, go ahead and click over here. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me. Thanks so much.